the final battle for the Extreme promotion. I'm John Renton with the retro review of ECW Guilty as Charged 2001. Taking place in the Hammerstein Ballroom, 2,500 screaming fans. It's the final ECW pay-per-view in its history. I don't count ECW One Night Stand 2005 as being part of the ECW, timeline, so to speak. Even though, yes, Vince McMahon realized, hey, the rise and fall of ECW is really goddamn successful. Hey, Paul, take a bunch of these guys I stole from you. Bring in some other guys that were part of your company and that aren't signed to NWA TNA and actually want to show up. And let's have you put on a great goddamn show under my umbrella, but make it your own. And then One Night Stand 2006 and the revival of ECW, where Vince McMahon basically bastardized, pasteurized, and just, mutilated ECW's history and name and all that and everything. They basically just destroyed ECW's legacy. And as you know, I've never been the biggest ECW fan, but even I, as somebody that never really cared for the promotion overall, had to appreciate when they put on a great goddamn pay-per-view. And they did put on some good matches on TV, and they gave a platform to a lot of guys that would succeed in WWE and WCW. And they took guys and basically rehabbed their images that came from WCW and WWE, and they would go on to bigger promotions. And had it not been for ECW, the Monday Night Wars would have not been nearly as goddamn fun as they were. ECW really was the catalyst, the blasting cap, so to speak, to make things explode. Yes, WWE and WCW had the huge budgets, but ECW did do a lot of good shit, despite some of the bad shit, and there was a lot of bad shit, despite what some people may want to say. As somebody that wasn't the biggest ECW fan, it would be ludicrous for me not to appreciate the efforts of many of the talents. Now, there are going to be some people I criticize on this review, but that being said, that's just what being a fan's all about. But it's really goddamn sad that ECW did shut down. The promotion was able to evolve and be just a little more extreme as far as, the impactful maneuvers. Yes, they would still use the chairs and the violence, and it would still be madness. But as the promotion really started to go down, and oh boy, by 1999, it was really starting to go down. Even when they got on TNN, the whole TNN thing was fucking, just not good for them. They were on cable television, but they weren't promoted all that well. I believe, as Heyman has said, and others, they were just a guinea pig to see if wrestling would fly on the network. And then USA got rid of WWE. They went to TNN, which became Spike TV for way more money. And then I think they were kicked off. I think ECW was kicked off in October of 2000. They already weren't doing that well financially. Heyman was almost out of the company because he was burned out. He had tried everything. All this stuff's been covered in other interviews and stuff like that. Great stuff, especially from Paul Heyman on his most recent documentary, that was released a few years ago. There's a lot of good history with ECW. It's a lot of sad history. Had that promotion been able to survive, though, had it not gone bankrupt, I don't know if it would have survived much past another couple years. Because it couldn't evolve enough where I don't know if a network, a major network was going to give them the money and the resources they needed to continue. But they still had some pretty damn good talent. And they also had Don Callis as Cyrus. And I'm going to rip on him quite a bit here. But let's get into the review. Yeah, the Hammerstein Ballroom was really goddamn hot. I fucking love that venue. Great, it's small, but the energy in that crowd was fucking infectious. The intro was close to 4 goddamn minutes. The runtime on the network version, by the way, was like 2 hours and 5 minutes. Joey Styles welcoming us. One of the best color commentators, at least, of the Monday Night War era. And even was pretty good in WWE, though he was very much creatively handcuffed. He could be really goddamn good. I mean, he was pretty much a crackpot outside of wrestling, but I digress. Joel Gertner does his usual stuff and, basically says he's going to violate a woman at ringside. I mean, he didn't say that. Gertner actually seems like a really good guy, but that was just his shtick. He would always, talk to women and things he wanted to do to them. You know what it is. I mean, if you're an ECW fan, you know what Joel Gertner will say. And it's the Bad Street Boys, Christian York and Joey Matthews. They were tackled by the Baldies, who were Cyrus. Well, I mean, I'm just going to say it, Don Callis, because, yeah, he was Cyrus, but Don Callis. And Don Callis was annoying here, and he's annoying on wrestling television now. Whoever got him into wrestling, really, quite frankly, should be, slapped, because he has not been good for wrestling. he hasn't been like a detriment to wrestling, but he's not nearly as charismatic or as interesting or as influential as he thinks he is. And this is just coming from a fan. Yes, he's helped out a few people, but he's been more of a detriment. He's not a good commentator. He's not really a good TV personality. Thinks he's way better than he is. But anyway, Jerry Lynn and Cyrus show up, and Gertner gets laid out with the DDT outside by the Baldies, and Lynn hits a pile driver soon after, and Cyrus gets the heel manager pin in about 2.5 minutes. Basically, it's just a way to continue this whole thing of Cyrus being the network executive and just basically being the full-on dick heel. Here's the problem, though. Cyrus then and Cyrus now, Callis now, I didn't care if he got beat. I just didn't want him on my television, and that was the case here. I was like, oh, he got beat up. Cool. Does this mean he's not going to talk? Does this mean this piece of shit is just going to be off of my television? Good. Okay, finally he shuts up so I can actually, enjoy some of the matches instead of watching this goddamn idiot try to act like he gives a damn or means a fucking shit to goddamn wrestling. Anyway, Cyrus and Lynn then run down the faces, and Lynn mentions RVD. And he'll face him in the main event, but he doesn't know it yet. We then get Danny Dorian and Roadkill versus Hot Commodity, Julio De Niro, and Easy Money with Chris Hamrick and Elektra. I want to say right now, obviously, as somebody that was never the biggest ECW fan, if I'm unfamiliar with some of these guys, my apologies. ECW tag title match. Cyrus joins Joey on commentary, pretty much ruining everything. Joey should have just called this goddamn thing by himself. Maybe he was tired and they needed somebody else, but fucking hell, have Dreamer on commentary. God damn, even his stuff during the Barely Legal main event wasn't all that bad. He at least added some energy to it. And yeah, I'm going to keep dumping on Cyrus, Don Callis, because he fucking deserves it. And it wasn't bad. It was a sign that the roster was thin, but Dorian and Roadkill were not a bad team. And this Hot Commodity, they were okay. They were flippy shit guys, but they were what they were. They obviously needed more time on mainstream television. Hammer gets taken out at one point. Dorian and Roadkill win with a leg drop off the top. 1, 2, 3. Well, Dorian hits a leg drop while Roadkill has him up in the wheelbarrow, and it is what it is. And then heels attack afterwards. Nova shows up, the future Simon Dean, a guy that thought he was also way better than he actually was. The Simon system, remember that? He was actually better as Nova. He takes on Chris Hamrick with Elektra. It was quick. Elektra got rocked. Got her arm even stepped on because Nova has a new attitude. We get a ref bump. Chicken wing to Nova. Chris Chetty shows up, and apparently Chris Chetty was somebody that lost a loser leaves town, like loser leaves company match, and so he can be a referee because he's in a ref shirt. We get the former sign guy Dudley as Louis Dangerously because, Paulie Dangerously. And joins the frenzy. Spike shows up, and him and Chetty brawl. He hits the acid drop, and then a swanton on the Chetty. The match is still going, by the way, and Nova gets the pin. I think Spike counted the pin, because why the fuck not? ECW! So, Carino and Jack Victory cuts a promo about the three-way dance later. Steve Karina, very underappreciated as a worker. Really, really, really good talent. He had a lot to the dying days of ECW and was really good in other promotions as well. C.W. Anderson versus Tommy Dreamer, I Quit match. I've never been the biggest fan of Dreamer, but this was at least when he was at somewhat of a physical peak. He had beaten the shit out of his body. C.W. Anderson was a good technical wrestler. Felt personal. They took it seriously. They used a lot of weapons, but it was a whole, make me quit, I quit. No, I'm not going to quit. And at least we didn't have, as much as I love Roddy Piper, we didn't have a Mania 11 thing. What do you say? We didn't have that. Cyrus is idiotic on commentary. Shocking, I know. Chair to the arm to take out, CW's finisher. A lot of his submission moves as well. We both bleed, quite a bit. We get the Towel Boy interfering, and then he gets laid out with the delayed superplex off the ropes. That was some pretty good stuff. Dreamer then basically destroys C.W. Anderson, puts him through a table, and then gets the table strap that's around the table, and wraps it around CW's eyes, and he quits. Also, there was, a razor wire ball or circle because, holidays and stuff like that. This took place on the 7th of 2001. January 7, 2001, yet they were celebrating it like it was the holidays. It's almost like they taped this before Christmas and decided to air. I mean, I know they didn't, but it's just, it's all around the holidays. Why are they still doing presents? Like Christmas was 2 weeks prior. So Francine then looks to eat a foot long because phallic references. Am I right? Carino interrupts. and basically says, well, he wanted to get with Francine. Apparently a lot of guys wanted to get with Francine. That was always the implication. Francine seems like a really nice person, but it's just the idea was she would put out if you were the champion, but not if you were the champion. I think that was the thing they did with her and Shane Douglas, because, Shane Douglas, being of sound mind, that's somebody you'd want to apparently sleep with if you were a woman. Wouldn't think so, pilled up as he was. But anyway, Karina interrupts and wonders where Just Incredible is. She says, oh, Just Incredible's with Missy Hyatt. Weird name drop. Don't know why Missy Hyatt was mentioned. Nothing against Missy Hyatt. I actually think she should have been used better in WCW. Carino, because Francine won't put out, calls her trash, basically. I'm just going to say that word, and leaves. And then Carino was in the bathroom with Missy Hyatt, who just leaves in a towel. Then Jack Victory's wondering if he could sleep with Missy Hyatt. What is it with everybody in ECW wanting to sleep with the women on the roster? I mean, there's Extreme and then there's what? Like, what the fuck? I mean, not that WWE was using their women any better. But anyway, not that WCW was either. I mean, Major Guns, fucking hell, and Tigress, whatever she was. But yeah, they've had Missy Hyatt show up there just to basically be the, the company bicycle, I guess. And then we get to a match, thank God. Unholy Alliance, Tajiri and Mikey Whipwreck. Got to meet Tajiri, actually, in an indie show about 2 years ago. Really nice guy. Him and Super Crazy. Got to meet Super Crazy as well. Actually got a selfie with him. And bought a couple autographs. Really nice guy as well. But anyway, the Unholy Alliance with the Sinister Minister, the future James Mitchell, versus Kid Cash and Super Crazy versus the FBI, Guido and Tony Mamaluke, with Big Sally. Big Sal was really... Yeah, he was definitely big by this point. I don't think he lived much longer after this, and that's a real shame. Seemed to have the Yokozuna type weight. It was a 3-way contenders match. Whoever won would be the number 1 contender for the ECW Tag Team Championships. Yeah, about that. Pace is good, despite any botches. I mean, you're going to get that. Everybody, I think, was either, a little bit nervous being on pay-per-view, or they were just trying to do everything too goddamn fast. Cash did slip at one point, but recovered by hitting a huge dive outside onto everybody, as Kid Cash was known to do. Sally splashes Cash later. Splash Cash, that sounds like something very inappropriate. And then Mamaluke gets pinned to eliminate him. We get double team moves abound, and then double tiger suplex, rather. The Unholy Alliance win. Not a bad match, actually. There were 2 good matches on this show. And then Simon and Swinger with Don Marie, the Blue Boy, the Blue Meanie, as a pimp, basically, because he was... I guess his time, in WWE, he decided, hey, the Godfather is a really good influence. Let me do this. I like the Blue Meanie. Nothing wrong with him. And Jasmine St. Clair, I've heard the name. Can't say I really know much about her. They were supposed to be in a tag match against Balls Mahoney and Chili Willy, who looked like a weird version of Butch Reed and a luchador. Or, actually, he was just like a faster Butch Reed, basically. He had the blonde hair. Like, I'm not really that familiar with Chili Willy. Heard the name. That's really about it. Basically everybody just does, a few moves, and then Rhino comes in and take out everybody, including Dawn Marie, and then hits a pile driver off the ropes onto Jasmine St. Clair. Because the one thing about this show, they smashed Rhino over. I'll give them credit for that. They really smashed him over. This is probably the best main event run that Rhino ever had, because yes, he had a little bit of a run in NWA TNA. Well, TNA technically by 2005. He was NWA champion for all of a few days. Which is more than you could say for some people at that point, because Jeff Jarrett just had to have the championship back. Anyway, he then yells backstage about how he's going to get the championship. We think it's Sandman versus Steve Karina with Jack Victory versus Just Incredible with Francine. Tables, ladders, chairs, and canes match. You have to avoid the copyright because they had to put, Singapore canes there. Yeah, it was what it was. It was for the ECW championship, and Sandman was fucking rotten. He just was. I know he was over to the crowd. He just he couldn't do anything. He couldn't. And for whatever reason, Vince McMahon thought it was a good idea to actually feature him much past like ECW One Night Stand 06, but it is what it is. He could get over with some fans, but I just never saw the appeal with Sandman. Once the bell rang, you're like, wow, this guy really can't do anything. I'm not saying I can. And I'm not saying that guy didn't go through a whole lot of shit, but he was careless, he was sloppy. He tried to take care of his opponents, he just wasn't athletically gifted. Or gifted to be in the ring at all, outside of ECW. Basically, there were a whole bunch of bad table bumps and a whole bunch of crap, a bunch of interference. But that being said, even though I say crap, this was at least something that had a big fight feel to it. They had a bunch of ladders, they had a bunch of tables, a bunch of chairs, a bunch of canes, and they basically, dressed it up to hide the fact Sandman couldn't really work. Carino and Credible could. I don't think they can anymore. I think they're pretty much retired. At least I know Carino is. But they did, some good shit here. And then we get a massive ladder from Sandman. Carino and Credible try to get up on the ladder, and somebody's raising the championship. Oh no, who's this? Cyrus is like, I don't know what's going on. Great, we have to hear more from Don Callis. That's what this pay-per-view fucking needed. And then Sandman gets the title to win, and they all show respect afterwards. Holy shit, what the hell's going on? Jack Victory even seemed shocked by that. Then the Baldies attack. Great, we need more of these guys. I don't even have anything against them, but they're just there. Then Rhino shows up. He slips on a chair but still hits the gore and then basically threatens to kill Sandman's family if he doesn't give him a shot. He does. He beats him up for a bit and then finally pins him with a pile driver on the remnants of the table that he shattered. Cool. Rhino is the TV and the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. He did have one funny line about the television championship. Why am I the television championship for a company that isn't even on TV? I think they still had syndication. I think that was it. He brought up a good point. I mean, that's really what you should do. You shouldn't have a TV championship if you're not on TV. Even though Rob Van Dam and others did add credibility to that TV championship. That was actually a pretty damn good championship. The workhorse title of ECW. And, yeah, so he's the champion. Cyrus then acts like he's done anything useful, which he has. And I don't really think Don Callis ever has. I don't like Don Callis, if you guessed that. RVD shows up. Is he going to face off against Rhino, or are we going to end with RVD finally winning the ECW championship? Nope, Jerry Lynn shows up and they have a match that... Jerry Lynn was a heel, so he was more deliberate here. This wasn't very good. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't very good. It wasn't like the classics they had in '99. They had, that series of matches that were really goddamn good. Incredible work rate. There was some selling, but just a lot of high spots. But you know what? They were really goddamn fun. Some of the best matches of the 90s, at least for American wrestling, they were really goddamn good. Cyrus acts like he's helping. RVD bleeding from the mouth. Gertner comes in, DDTs Cyrus. Thank fucking God. Gets Cyrus out of the ring and out of wrestling. Oh no, he's still in it because we can't have nice things. Man Terminator to Jerry. 1, 2, 3. Cut to Carino and Credible. They're a new stable. They just don't get to realize it because the company ends. So yeah, unfortunately, everything kind of ends with a whimper with ECW. This was a bit longer than I intended, because I wanted to talk about the history and talk about some stuff. It's unfortunate the ECW did shut down. It really is, because, you need more promotions that are viable to continue. And had they had, the funding, had things worked out, had they been able to get the pay-per-view money to put on another pay-per-view, and get some good television, maybe they would have succeeded in another few years. It would have definitely been interesting to see. But by then, WWE was king. WCW would be done. I mean, at least ECW had commercial success. Even though their television was done, and even though they had a lot of issues, they at least were more successful financially as far as, yes, they went bankrupt, but as far as live ticket sales, merchandise, and pay-per-views, they were more successful than WCW was at that time, because there was more interest in ECW, even as the company was basically gutted. I'm watching WCW 2001 rather, and I've watched it since a reboot, and that company had such a steep decline that even with the talent issues in ECW, they still had way more fan interest. So it would have been interesting to see how long they would have existed. How long do you think ECW would have existed? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.